Welcome back to Simrite Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this princess dart bustier. So it's actually an inverted princess dart bustier. So here you can see the princess dart and you can see the inverted yoke. Okay. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. So to achieve this perfectly, we'll be drafting our pattern. So I have my back pattern and I have my front basic bodice pattern. So here you can see that the difference in the front and back is shorter. The front is shorter by 2 inches because of the bust dart technique. So my bust dart there is 2 inches. I created it right there and I have 2 inches difference for the front and back. So my waist dart is 1.5 and my bust span divide by 2, that is what I use to create the dart. Then the back dart is 1 inch as well. So we want to start up creating the princess dart first. So my neckline is 3 by 3. So you can go ahead and make any neckline of your choice. So for me, I'm using 3 by 3 inches. You can also use 4 by 4 inches for your neckline. So the most important part of this tutorial is the inverted bustier with yoke. So I will divide my neckline by 2 now and get the midpoint and connect it to the bust point. So after connecting to the bust point, I'm going to take my armhole measurement. So my armhole measurement on my front pattern is 10 inches. So I will now divide that 10. I will divide it into 2. Here I have 5 inches. So I just go ahead and mark 5 inches. Then I'm going to place my pattern ruler right now and create the first princess dart, as you can see. So after creating the first princess dart, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So at that 1 inch, I'm going to connect the next princess dart, then come out a little by 1 inch. So I mark 1 inch and I'm going to recreate my armhole. Okay, so that 1 inch is because of the shortage we might have when sewing the princess dart. So I will take my bust circumference from the center front again because of the dart. So I'll measure it to the first dart and then skip the dart and take my actual bust measurement. So that is where my bust measurement is. So I'm going to reconnect my bust measurement to the waistline, which I've done, and also reconnect my bust dart. So I'm just recreating the bust dart to the new line we just created. So that is the new line we'll be working with right now. So after that, I'm going to create my under bust tightening. So there are different methods of creating under bust tightening, but for this tutorial, I'm going to use the simplest method. Just come out by 1 inch and mark if you're on a normal size. But if you're on a plus size, I will advise you to go by 1.5 on that point. Starting right from the last dart, just come out by 1.5 if you're on a plus size. But normal size is 1 inch. I just took 1 inch for bust 40 inches now. So I'll just connect it back to the dart, as you can see. Then for the front piece of it, I'll just place my pattern ruler. Just watch how I'm placing it. Place it and connect to the bust point from the dart there, and then connect it back, as you can see. So it's just almost the same thing we have on the dart there. So we are done with the front piece right now. So the next thing is to create the inverted part of this tutorial, which is the most important part of this tutorial. So I'll be showing you the simplest way to create this inverted bustier. So from the chest line, I'm going to come up by 2.5. You can also come up by 2 inches. It depends on how high you want the inversion. Then I'll connect it to the first dart on the under bust. Okay, so that will serve as our guideline for the connection. So once I've connected it to the under bust, the next I will do is to come over to the under bust where I'm marking right now. I'm going to use my pattern ruler. You can see how I placed it. From that point of the dart, just flush it to the line we created, and that is the inversion. So we use the straight line for a guide for the inverted part. So after that, the next thing is I'm going to draw a straight line on the dart, okay, so that we'll be able to connect the inversion or close up the dart on the inversion. So just mark a straight line from the underbust to the waistline and from the underbust on the other side to the waistline. We are cutting off this shaded part right now. So that is how to go about it. So take your measurement of your waist, divide by 4 again, skipping the dart. So if you skip the dart, we have our new line right now. So I will just reconnect the new line, as you can see, to the bust line. So doing this, we've already replaced our waistline. So I will now go ahead and cut. So you can watch me cut into the bust dart, then into the armhole line. Then I'll just separate the pattern, so we'll concentrate on the front piece alone. So I will come over to the under bust just to get out the cut out the inversion separately. Then I'm going to, the front is going to be on fold, the center front for the inversion and for the yoke will be on fold. So I'll go ahead and cut out the center front. As you can see, I'll cut it into the neckline. I'll take it to the shoulder line, my cutting. I'll also take it to the armhole line. Then I'll come into the first princess dart line and cut out the dart, as you can see. Then after that, I'll go over to the other dart. So I'm going to cut out the second dart where we have the bust dart. So cutting it out, I'm going to close my bust dart. So once I close my bust dart right here, I will use my adhesive. You can also use your seal tape to close your bust dart. So any which way, just close the bust dart, as you can see me do right here. So what we have under, just cut it off. That's excess from the bust dart. So our pattern is ready and is looking quite beautiful. So coming over to the dart we have on the inversion, I'll simply cut the dart on the other side. I was meant to cut the other side so it will be able to cover very well. So I will apply my adhesive right now. The other part I cut, I will use it to close up the dart, the waist dart, as you can see. So the whole of this is what we have now as the inverted bustier. Okay, so you can see it right there. So it's looking beautiful. So we are done with the front pattern. We want to jump over to the back. So for the back, the first thing I'm going to do is to create my neckline. 3 inches by 1 inch is the neckline. That is if you want a high neck for it. But like I said, neckline is by choice. So I'm going to create the neckline, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is to contour my center back for zip bulge. That is my zip part. So I'm going to contour that part by 0.75 for 3/4. So I'm going to flush it to the neckline, as you can see. So that part I'm going to cut it out. I know you are familiar with all of this. So I will replace my contour line by 0.75. Then on the chest line, I will replace by 0.5 because the contour line went through the chest line. So I'm going to connect, as you can see. So we are done now. The back can be plain. The back can be a princess dart. So if it's a princess dart, just measure your armhole. Whatever you have, divide it by 2. And then you mark. Then bring in your pattern ruler and create your princess dart. But for me, I love to freehand that part, because sometimes the pattern ruler might not give you the exact shape you want, and there might be a bulge at your princess dart. So just go ahead and freehand it. Don't make it to have any bulge at that point. So here I have my princess dart. I'll come out by 1 inch and reconnect my armhole. That is if I'm working with a princess dart. I can also hold my dart if I want. But for this particular tutorial, I don't think I'm going to make the back plain without a dart. So if I'm making the back plain without a dart, that means I'm going to cut off the dart. And if I'm cutting off the dart, I'm going to cut through the real armhole, okay, as you can see, and take off the dart completely. So I'm cutting off the contour line right now. So I'm not using the princess dart at all. So this bodice is actually very dartless. So the front is ready and the back is also ready, as you can see. So we are going to cut them on fabric right now. So to cut the back on fabric, remember that I'm removing the dart because it's dartless. So since I'm removing the dart, I'm going to take the measurement of my waistline from the center back. I will mark my waist divide by 4, then add 1 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to cut out, go to the chest and measure my bust and add 1 inch seam allowance. So whatever excess I have right there that formed that, I'm going to cut it out. So that is exactly what I'm doing here, because I don't need a dart. But if you need a dart, please don't cut. Just go ahead and hold your dart or cut out the princess part of this dart. So I'm going to add my seam allowances, which I've done for all of them. I added 0.5 inch all around, and on the side I added 1.5 to stitch the side. Then you can see where I added. I'm just trying to show you where I added my seam allowances, okay? So you can also make a notch at the bust point so that you know it will serve as a guide for you. Alright, so that is the bust point, and I have my lining cut as well. So you can also go ahead and hairstay as well. So hairstay before you stitch, and you can also pad before you stitch. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not padding. I just want to show you how to go about this. So here I have my back. That is my 1 inch seam allowance. 0.5 is on the waistline, 1.5 on the side, and 1.5 all around the neckline. So now we want to start sewing. The first part to sew is the princess dart part. So I'm taking off my pattern now, and this is what I have on my yoke. So the yoke is actually inverted yoke bustier. So I'm going to sew the princess dart first. I'm sewing the princess dart from the down to the up as I'm demonstrating. I'll do that also for the lining. I'll sew the princess dart from the down to the up as well. So I'm done sewing. As you can see, this is actually looking very beautiful. Although I did not pad it, it's still looking fine. So once you pad it, it will come out very, very well. So you can trim out the excess there, okay? There might be some excess. Just go ahead and trim it out. So the lining is ready and the fabric is ready. So the next we want to do now is to sew the inverted part. So for the inverted part of it, I'm going to match the Ankara parts and secure with my pins. So I'm going to secure with my pins from the tip of the inverted parts. So I will pin that part from that point to the end of it. So when I'm sewing, I'm going to sew from the side into the inverted parts. I will do that first and show you what I have. So you can see I'm done sewing it. This is how it came out. So I'll flip it the other way and then flip this other way. Okay, so you follow this method so you'll be able to get that inversion well. So I'm going to make a notch at that point, so I'll be able to have that free next to sew. But first secure with your pin and make sure it matches accordingly before you place your notch. So if you look at that part, you need a notch to ease it. So this is how I made the notch to ease it. So I'm going to sew now. I also sew from the down part and go into the center line, okay, to meet up with my stitches. So here I'm done sewing. You can see what I have. So this is what the front looks like at the end of the day. This is looking so beautiful and creative. So I will do the same for the lining as well. So if you have little excess there, just cut it out. It does not affect anything at all. So this is my lining. I also stitched it in the same manner. So I'll pick up the back piece now and place it seam line to seam line, just the normal way you sew your dress. I'm going to stitch the seam lines, having the center back open for the zipper. So after stitching, I will also do the same for the lining. So this is what I have. You can see it's looking clean and beautiful. So I'll place the lining right side to the fabric and align them. So I'm going to secure them with my pins. Make sure the seam lines are secured with your pins. So I'll open up the seam lines now. I'm going to first secure the seam line with my pin in a way I can sew on top of my pin. Then I'll keep pinning as you can see. So make sure the seam lines are first secured. Then you can now arrange the pins accordingly. So I'm going to secure the pins accordingly as you can see. So after securing with my pin, I'm going to stitch around it. So I'm done stitching. Make sure you make your notches, very important. So I've made my notches and I'm going to flip it to the seams to the part of the lining and top stitch accordingly. So here I'm done. This is what I have. Make sure you give this dress a good press, okay? So once you press it down, you see the beauty of it. So I'm going to sew out my seam allowances. My seam allowances was 1.5. I'll just go ahead and sew it off and do the same for the lining. So you can see the inner part of this dress is looking so beautiful. So next is to attach the down piece and attach your sleeve and your zipper, and we are done. So I believe you learned something new in this tutorial. So if you have watched up to this extent, why not subscribe and like this video and share to family and friends. Turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. On this channel, we share beautiful tutorials every day. So please like and share, and see you in the next class. Bye.